podcast, we have a guest of Matt James. He's from Courier Insurance Brokers. Now, insurance in the courier industry is a real hot topic, and I thought it'd be good to get Matt on to get some insights into, explaining some of the details of the cover that might be required, and just to sort of dig deep and get some more information. So, welcome along to the podcast, Matt.
Thanks, Dan. Pleasure to be here.
Perfect. Right. So let's crack straight on. So tell us about your business and what you kind of do and who you serve.
Sure. So I work for Courier Insurance Brokers, which is an independent commercial broker all across the UK. So there's many brokers that work there, including myself, and I primarily deal with fleet insurance and couriers. I do other commercial lines of business, yeah. So lots of couriers up and down the country. So when you invited me to this, I thought, yeah, excellent.
Perfect. And obviously, you're going to be one of our fantastic referral partners on our platform. So that's another benefit to our members on the Start a Courier Business platform. The only way you can get access to that is to join our community. So that's all sort of free stuff that's available to everyone out there. So Matt, tell me, I mean, if someone was looking for insurance in the industry, what makes Courier stand out compared to other companies or brokers?
Sure. So the company itself is a teal company, which is spelled TEAL, which means there's no micromanagement. So I don't have someone breathing down my neck saying, I must use this insurer, I must use that insurer, like some other brokers do. It's completely up to me who I use, as long as we've got an agency. So if someone calls me, I get them the best deal with the best insurer. It's as simple as that. There's no sort of placement pressure, which is exactly why I joined.
Okay. So we're going to, as I say, we're going to delve deep into the ins and outs of courier insurance and how it's different to your regular kind of insurance. And if anyone wants to stick around until the end of the podcast, we're going to get into some facts and figures and just get some rough ideas. So it's certainly worth hanging around towards the end of the podcast for the sort of nuts and bolts of all the information. So Matt, if someone doesn't know and they're new to the industry and they're just going to go out and insure their van and they think they can start as a courier, what's the kind of difference between your traditional van insurance and a specialist courier insurance?
Sure, very common, understandable question. So most motor policies for vans and cars will exclude carriage of goods for hire and reward, which is what couriers are. You're picking up someone else's parcels, dropping off at their house, and you're getting paid. So that's carriage of goods for hire and reward. So that's the main difference. So if you have a normal car and a normal van, it normally excludes those specifically. So you won't be covered to do parcels, for example.
And then, so what would be the implications then if someone was to carry on their business and just go and get van insurance? And obviously that would be wrong. What would be the implications of that?
That's a really easy answer. There is no cover. I've had this before where someone said, I'm not paying that, I'll just get normal van insurance. And my response is, if you have an accident and it says Amazon on the sign of your van and there's 100 parcels across the road, it's pretty obvious you're not a builder or a plumber.
Yeah.
And the worst case is insurers won't then pay, and then they'll put you on the fraud database and they won't give you a refund. So but if you take anything from this video, it's do it properly, because they do so many checks that it's just not worth the risk if it goes wrong. Speak to a proper broker like me who will do all the right covers for you.
So the first takeaway there is that when you're getting insurance for courier work, you must have hire and reward insurance.
Absolutely. And that's one thing, if I may add, the danger of going online is especially we're all rushed in the world, your wife's cooking your tea or whatever, and you're on the forms ticking the boxes. If you tick the wrong box or you miss the wrong box, you might not be covered correctly. So it's always good to speak to a broker that can give you the right advice.
And actually, just on the back of that, there's another thing that sort of sprung to mind when I started off in the industry and I arranged some courier insurance online. Like you say, some of it online seems to be very generic. And what I thought I'd bought myself a courier policy, and when I actually read the small print, there was no mention of hire or reward. So it's definitely worth checking that, isn't it?
100%. I'm a qualified insurance broker, got my diploma. I look at some of these websites and quotes and think, I don't have a clue what some of that means. It's so much weird terminology on there that clients don't stand a chance. So it's better to use a broker, and I can find out exactly, because you go on a website and it will say, oh, you need X, but it doesn't say that you need something else. So it's always best to
Yeah.
Do it properly.
Perfect.
As you say, if it goes wrong and you've got the wrong cover and your van's worth 50 grand,
Mm.
you've just lost 50 grand.
Absolutely. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So moving on, then we talked about the vehicle insurance itself. What about the stuff that goes in the back of your van? So let's talk about goods in transit insurance, and what is that exactly?
So goods in transit is simply you're covering the goods that you're carrying. So if someone orders something off Amazon, you've got it in the back of your van and there's an accident or a fire and it's lost, someone will want to claim for that. So that's why you need that insurance.
Mm.
A lot of companies, for example, DPD and Amazon, you have to have goods in transit,
Mm.
and they normally off. Some of them will be sort of 25,000, some will be 50,000. It gets rather technical. It depends what terms and conditions you trade under. So some of them are RHA, but I always recommend all risk, so that if you insure £50,000 worth of all risk, whatever happens, you're basically covered for that amount.
Mm. Okay. One thing I didn't mention in the brief, I'm just going to spring this one on you as well. So, what about things like dangerous goods and ADR? I'm guessing there's a lot more insurance involved in that sort of stuff.
Yeah, most policies exclude hazardous goods. So I always say to clients, do you carry anything hazardous, or do you go to hazardous locations like airports,
Mm.
airside,
Mm.
power stations? We can get cover for those, but it's just different insurers. It's a bit more difficult. So there's various. I think there's 7 different categories for hazardous
Yeah.
goods, isn't there, off the top of my head? So yeah, we need to know that because courier work, as you probably know, Darren, is so varied. Some of them can be parcels from
Yeah.
Amazon. Someone can be someone's dropping off
Yeah.
bathroom items or kitchen items.
Yeah.
It varies, but yeah, as long as it's not explosive or hazardous, it's usually okay.
But is it generally that if you're getting into some more of that hazardous stuff, then the premium is obviously going to go up? Would that be right?
Generally speaking, yeah, that they normally ask how many. A key question is how many drops you do. So if you do,
Mm.
it's kind of more haulage A to B. So I'm based in Norwich. Norwich to
Yeah.
London, one drop is completely different to 100 Amazon parcels.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so yeah, but yeah, it would be more expensive. I
Yeah.
believe that's correct.
Okay. And then the final piece of the puzzle with regards to the overall courier insurance package, let's talk about public liability and employers' liability if you've got drivers and stuff. How does that work?
So you're quite right. So I offer everything for this. So if someone calls me, a referral via yourself, I can insure the vehicles, and then I'll say you need public liability, employer's liability, goods in transit. I can do everything.
Hmm.
It's one point of contact, but you're quite right. So public liability is, if you drop a parcel on someone's foot, it's basically injury to someone or property. Employer's liability is a legal requirement. Employers Act 1969, off the top of my head. If basically you have staff, you need employer's liability. There's a couple of exceptions, but a common misconception is, which I get a lot, is someone's got 10 vans, all their drivers are self-employed.
Hmm.
They say, "Oh, I don't need employer's liability." That's incorrect. It's a legal requirement. So if they're using your vehicles and working for you, you need employer's liability.
Okay.
It's basically injury to staff. The fines for not having it, I think, are 2.5 grand a day or something. So it's definitely
Hmm.
worth. It's not expensive. It's only a few £100s
Right.
generally.
Right. So the only way that someone wouldn't need the employer's liability if they were just an owner operator and a one-man band, is that right?
That's correct. I mean, there are exceptions. So like if it's yourself and just your wife and there's no other employees,
Mm.
you technically don't need it.
Mm.
But I'd advise having it just in case something was to happen. But yeah, but then in actual fact, again, people like DPD, they normally insist you have it anyway, just in case someone uses your van if you're
Mm.
on holiday. So so I think it's the same with Yodel.
Mm.
They generally all ask for
Mm.
public liability and employer's liability as standard.
Okay, cool. And then in terms of paying for insurance through Concilio, do you guys offer any kind of credit facilities for established businesses?
Yeah, subject to criteria. I use premium credit quite a lot. Other people use close. We've got 2 or 3 finance providers that can help. It's a difficult if it's a new business that started up yesterday with no credit rating. That's a bit more difficult. So it would normally be a sort of a deposit and then work something out.
Mm.
If it's a well established business like yourself with a good credit score,
Mm.
finance isn't an issue at all.
Mm.
I try and do payments at very low interest rates and over 10 or 12 months to help spread the cost of the policies.
Okay. And then, I mean, throughout the industry, we talk to a lot of different people and established businesses, and there seems to be a lot of discussion around the rising insurance costs, particularly in our industry, because of the likes of Amazon with all their massive DSP fleets and putting claims up and stuff like that. What are your thoughts on sort of escalating costs in the insurance industry?
You're absolutely right, Dan. It's a tricky one because I hate to use the word COVID, but I think it is a delay from COVID. All insurances are going up at the moment, in particular motor. To make matters slightly worse, there are a few insurers that did couriers a year ago have pulled out of the market, so two or three big players. So then that makes it harder to get some of the cheaper quotes. But it's normally about cover rather than price. But I understand completely price is a big factor in these things. We've all got bills to pay. So and also inflation. Inflation, go back a few months, was 10%, wasn't it? So just the overall cost of insurance, and if that particular insurer has had a bad year overall on their book of business, they obviously need to put the prices up as well.
Mm,
So combining all those factors, things are going up.
mm,
So that's why it's important, which we'll come on to later, about risk management and drivers
mm.
and sort of running things as well as you can.
But obviously, you're well placed in the industry to try and get clients the best deal for their money, aren't you?
Well, that's my job. And as I said before, we don't have a placement strategy per se as Matt, you have to use this person,
Mm,
Matt, you have to use that person. I
mm,
can use who I like. We've got hundreds of agencies. So I will get the best deal with the best insurer. I'm not, some brokers, will look at commission or certain structures. I'm here to get the best deal for
mm.
clients. It's as simple as that.
So the way I've experienced insurance in the industry is there seems to be two types of broker or two types of company. You've got the guys that take the premium and then wave goodbye and they'll see you in 12 months' time. And then you've got the other type of broker that is very interactive and very, well, almost proactive and responsive in the event of claims and stuff like that. What can a driver do if they've got a policy? What's the best practices for a driver to maintain their policy and keep it in good order so that their renewal stays manageable for the following years?
Sure. So hopefully you'll agree, as we do your fleet insurance via myself. I'm all about one point of contact.
Mm,
And if just bear in mind, if you go online or you go to a call center, once your business is on, as you say, you might deal with a different person or you don't know who you're dealing with. With me, I'm available almost 24/7. If it's a Sunday night and someone has a prang and they call me, I'll answer the phone. So it's from start of the policy, for claims, renewals, advice throughout the whole year. So it's not just sell the policy and that's it.
mm,
You're there to support the client throughout the journey.
mm,
Um, I've actually had a client this week, so his renewal's coming up. There's been a few claims. It's all about risk management. So, how often are you doing the license checks? Are they doing driver training courses? Are you rewarding the good drivers? A lot of insurers like cameras in the vehicles, particularly if they upload the footage sort of all the time or instantly. Some dash cameras have a little button you can press, which then sends an alert, which is good.
mm,
So it's just trying to put your fleet in the best position.
mm,
And obviously, it's looking for patterns. So if you've had one driver who's had three or four big claims, that's having a big issue on your business,
mm.
which is something as an employer to factor in.
So things like trackers and even cameras are a very good investment when it comes to insurance, are they?
Definitely. There's one prime example would be Flock Insurance. They're very good.
Mm,
We get on very well with them. They like telematics. They use that to look at the data to see who's driving and risk scores. They wouldn't use it if there's a claim to reject a claim, but they just monitor who's doing what with the telematics, which increases driver scores. Some insurers actually do reports every month, which you can give to the owner or the fleet manager that says, this guy's driving well, this guy's speeding, this guy's not doing well. Gives like a score,
mm.
so it gives you more awareness of what your drivers are doing every day.
Okay. And just touching on one other thing you mentioned briefly, just to give a little bit more explanation for it. So you said about yourself being responsive and on hand to deal with claims and calls and things like that. If I was the driver and I had a little knock, on the way to work this morning or something like that, it might be in my mind to think, oh, I'll get round to reporting it in a week or two's time, or I'll do it when I can. What's the advantages, or what's the reason for me getting that reported as soon as possible to my insurer?
So I'd say what I say to all my clients: as soon as something happens, just call me. A lot of them will just send a video on WhatsApp or an image they've just hit someone. Get both the registrations, yours and theirs. The advantages of doing that is if it's a claim where you've hit another vehicle and it's a fault claim, your own insurer can intervene and offer to repair quickly. If we leave it a few days, they'll go to a credit hire company. They'll get a van or a car, whatever it may be, at an expensive rate. It will take longer and cost a lot more. So the sooner insurers can intervene, the lower the cost, generally speaking.
And obviously then the lower the cost means when it comes round to renewal time, that's going to be reflected because the claim cost is relatively lower.
Absolutely, yeah. So yeah, the sooner you intervene, because if you have someone goes into a credit hire van and ends up being a 20 grand claim, as opposed to you reported it the same day and they sorted it out for five, it makes a big impact on the term of the policy. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
This is the burning question, which is the first thing everyone asks when they talk about Courier Insurance. And I don't expect you to be able to give me a definitive answer, but as a rough price range or a rough guide, what would someone expect to be paying at the minute with the current market conditions for a year's worth of insurance in the industry?
So do you mean single vans or
But
fleets?
yeah,
You want me to
let's
answer?
talk about a single van. Let's talk about if it's an owner operator, he's doing same day work or something like that.
Sure, it's you're right. It's difficult to say because a postcode in Liverpool or Manchester will be different to a postcode, say, in here Norwich, where I am. But as a rough guide, if it's a new venture and it's a good postcode, you might be talking £3,000 or £4,000 for a van for a year. If someone's got a lot of bonus and they've been doing it for a few years, it might be 1,500 quid, a couple of grand.
Yep.
But that is completely dependent on have they had claims,
Yep.
have they got points, how old they are as well.
Yep.
Anyone under 25 is a bit more difficult. You're looking more like 5 or 6 grand. So yeah, as again, where the vehicle's kept, how much it's worth. There are all so many different factors. But as a rough guide, if that helps a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, obviously, that is a very general guide, but it's just for the people that might be sitting there thinking that they're going to go out and get their insurance for 500 quid. Obviously, that
No.
it's not realistic, is it?
No, and I guess that's part of your referral scheme, and
Yeah.
you've been in the industry a while. If and we do get this, someone rings up and says, "I want to be a courier tomorrow, and I want to buy 10 vans," and I say, "Well, you're probably for fleets, you're probably looking at 4 or 5 grand a van easily,"
Yeah.
and they go, "I want to pay 500 quid."
Yeah.
It's just a non-starter. So I'm always realistic with price, and as I say, is you could get a really cheap policy online,
Yeah.
but if it's wrong, it's not worth the paper it's written on.
So there's a real message there. If you do end up getting some fantastically cheap quote, which is just far cheaper than everyone else, then you definitely need to check the small print, don't you?
Well, they say if it looks too good to be true, it often is. So,
Yeah.
but one thing I'll say here, and I think I've offered this for you in the past, is if you're not sure on something and you want me to check something, there's no charge for that. I can have a look and say, that looks fine based on assuming what you've entered is correct.
Yeah.
But you do see it a lot where someone sends a certificate in and they don't realise they're just covered under a normal van. They're not covered for couriers, as you say.
Perfect. Okay, Matt. Well, look, that's really informative. I'm sure that people are going to learn a lot because when you're starting off in the industry, it's a real minefield and you just don't know what the truth is. You go on Google and you get all these conflicting answers, but it's really good to be able to speak to an expert and get that first-hand knowledge. So look, if anyone wants to get some quotes, if anyone wants to learn a bit more about Courier Insurance, the easiest way to do it is to jump onto our platform, start a courier business. We can then put you in touch with Matt and one of our other insurance providers, and they can give you some advice initially, and then they can give you some fantastic quotes. And hopefully that will bring some value. So look, thanks very much for your time today, Matt, and joining me on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. And just to add that if someone just wants a general overview, like you've just asked, there's no charge.
Yeah.
If someone wants to call me in the evening for what may appear to be a silly question, there's no charge. It's not a call centre where I'm charging £50 every time someone calls.
Yeah.
I'm here to give advice. I'm here to help. So no problem at all.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Matt, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thanks, Tom.
Cheers.
Cheers.